to having him. And before I begin, great to see Anand. Already we have some questions flowing in, right? And before we begin, let me have the pleasure of introducing Anand Garg. And I'm sure some of you must have seen his profile, and as we shared through our creatives. And let me also have the pleasure of formally introducing him to this August gathering. Now, he comes with an amazing, and I would say illustrious career, right from the consulting to the supply chain management area that he has been front-ending for the last few years now. And he completed his BA in mechanical engineering from Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University between 1997 and 2001. And then immediately after that, he took up his first job, and he was an area sales manager at PT and ITL between June 2001 and 2004. And after that, he took a break, I would say sabbatical kind of thing. And then he did his MBA from NMIMS between 2004 and 2006. And since after he completed his MBA, he started getting into the consulting domain. And he was a senior consultant at Capgemini between May 2006 and December 2007. After that, he was a principal consultant at PwC between 2008 and November 2011, where he assisted clients in translating their strategic goals into concrete actions. And so therefore, at a very engaged, I think he was doing that heavy lifting, and which is not an easy job. And after that, he was the manager at Accenture between November 2011 and June 2013. Again, where he assisted clients in cost reduction, risk mitigation, and sustainability practices. Again, it's a phenomenal work. And after that, he was the vice president at Ernst & Young between June 2013 and November 2013. Although it was a short stint, but I'm sure that's the one that has laid the foundation for the biggest thing that he's taking up. And he joined this group, Dr. Reddy's group, in November 2013, where he joined as the director of strategy and analytics, and where he was in the same position between November 2013 and November 2015. After that, he became director, head India supply chain during December 2015 and June 2017. After that, he was a senior director and head India supply chain between July 2017 and March 2020. And then, as the luck would have it, right, maybe Anand is going to explain to us, just before the pandemic, he became the vice president and head India supply chain in March 2020. And where he currently, manages something which is outstanding. Currently, he manages 5,000 crores business with 1,000 plus SKUs and 50 plus manufacturing sites, and 20 regional and central distribution for the B2C as well as B2B customers. And I think the topic that he has chosen to talk to us about is a phenomenal one, because I think we have seen the other side, but then he and his team were in the forefront of making sure that everybody stayed healthy and everybody was safe. And that is only thanks to not just the supply chain part of it, but also there is a humane factor that must have gone into the way they have galvanized this or marshaled this kind of resources to ensure that all of us were safe and healthy. And I'm sure during that time, he and his team must have faced phenomenal challenges, especially to do with the supply chain management, because when everything was around them, just like us, I think was very dark. But then I think they could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's what made sure that they stayed the ground and ensured that the supply chain disruptions were managed very efficiently. So he's going to be talking to us on that topic. And just a small protocol before I hand over the forum to Anand Garg is that we request all of you to put your questions in the Q&A box, and we will have the pleasure of relaying them to Anand at the end of it. And we will have he answering all of your questions, at least to the extent that he can, depending on the time constraints. I know we will address all of them. Over to you, Anand.
Thanks. Very good evening, everyone. And thanks, Nagin, for such an elaborate introduction. Pleasure to be part of ET series to share my experience, learning action on disruption, either induced by the COVID or a China blue sky strategy or a policy which was introduced in 2019, which is also getting now as you see, affirmed or reinforced as we witness a war between the two nations. By the way, over the last 2 years, we realized that disruptions gave us a lifetime opportunity to rethink, reimagine, redesign our future. So what we thought today is that probably in the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll take you through some of those, followed by our interactions for the remaining 30 minutes. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Let me know when you can see. Nagin, if somebody can just give me confirmation whether you can see the screen.
Yes, Anand, we can see it. Absolutely, we can.
Thank you. Just put it. Okay. So I'll just give you a quick heads up on how we are structured today. So we are looking at 5,000 crore business with 1,200 plus SKUs. We have a products which are in the ambient temperature conditions in 15 to 25 degrees, in 2 to 8 degrees and minus 18. So I've got a variety of products. We are dealing with around 1,000 plus suppliers, which is catering raw materials and packaging materials. We are looking at 60 odd manufacturing plants, either owned by us or which are low licensed or third-party manufacturers who are providing the products to us. We're dealing with 6,000 plus customers, which is cut it across various alternate channels, whether it is e-commerce, general trade, modern trade, rural, institutions. We are looking at 21 distribution points today in India to serve this entire demand. So what has changed for us? If you look at last 2 years, we have been facing as an industry, as a company, multifold challenges, whether it's a COVID or climatic change condition. You can see in Thailand, you can see within the country, you can see in the Southeast Asian countries. Today, we are also seeing a huge port congestion, which is leading to significant supply delays and cost escalation. Flight cancellation continues to be a challenge for all of us, induced primarily by COVID, and now it is a belly compromise which we see across the freight carriers. We continue to witness all-time high commodity volatility. You look at any commodity that you touch, the volatility is all-time high. So now all of these things are actually compelling us to think about the way we operate. And I'll tell you how we were operating before pandemic. And this is just a model which I've chose for you to sneak a peek at things in each of these areas that we were doing and thinking about that probably this is the best way of doing things. In the plan piece, you typically look at your product life cycle. You launch a new product, you commercialize it, you scale it up. It has a natural life of 5 to 10 years, depending upon the therapy, depending upon the disease profile, it is evolving, and the acceptability of a product in the market. It eventually dies. And there are certain things which has a long-lasting impact where you continue to build. So you're looking at the product from a life cycle management. You're looking at a demand predominantly from a forecasting and the customer orders. So it is a MTS and MTO scenario. You are looking at, in pharma, you're looking at customer behavior, which is your doctors, your consumer and disease behavior to understand the disease profile far better, therapy protocols, and then understanding what kind of growth a molecule or a brand would have it. Look at a standard promotion protocols to promote your brands with the doctor, with the other channels, whether it's an ATL or a PTL. You have a traditional channel partners, which are your stockist distributors who provide the medicines to the chemist in India. And then the patient walks into the chemist shop and take the medicine. And looking at the lead times that we have typically in supply chain, which is around 60 days, 45 for raw material, 30 days of your manufacturing, you'll end up doing forecasting, which is a mid to long range, which is around 3 months to 12 months. When you look at a source, you don't look at any strategy part of it. You look at how many supplies you are dealing with, what are their MOQs, volume, rate contracts. Typically, you do a rate contracts and volume contracts, depending upon what kind of category you're dealing with. You have a standard procurement lead time fed into your masters, and then you place your PRs and POs to get that material. You have a significant imports coming into the country. You have some bit of indigenization basis on your current capabilities. And you typically look at the OTIF levels from a supplier to understand supply performance. From a manufacturing standpoint, you always look into whether it's a great asset to in-house it based on the volume and the value, and basis on which you take a call, how much part of my portfolio should be in-house and how much should I continue to buy from my external partners. You look at from a short and long range capacity block to take a call on what would be the right timeline for you to invest. A lot of manual activities cutting across and a bit of a scheduling. From a delivery perspective, oftenly we've been talking from the last 1 decade, should we be doing the logistics by ourselves or should we be outsourcing it? So that continues to be conversation. Part of it, we have done it. You look at how do you reorganize your distribution footprint as your business continue to change. Look at the replenishment-based models to service your customer demand. You have a trade customer, standard customers, and the way you order and measure some of the OTIF parameters and the returns that you typically have for a saleable and non-saleable. Now, what has changed? So these are the existing processes. We being very proud citizen, proud employees of the company to see that, yes, all the processes are working fine. But one day when the event happens, that helped us to think about if in case my customer behavior, my demand patterns, my supply security is being compromised, what should I change? So we started thinking about entire redesigning our supply chain and thought that probably we have evolved our supply chain predominantly on the cost lever. Yes, you do talk about the BCP plans, you do talk about the resilience, you talk about the sustainability, but eventually your major focus is going to be the customer service at a higher cost or at a whatever the best cost that you can have it. And that's how your supply chain has been designed. And then we started having a mind shift change that it is not either and or, it is and. And that's how we tried making some of the moves in our overall supply chain. So we started talking about what is my strategic portfolio? A portfolio which is going to stay with us for the next 10 to 20 years time, and which is not going to die out for the next 2 to 3 years or a 5-year horizon. When you're going to look at your strategic portfolio, the way you do the marketing, the way you are going to manufacture these products, the way you're going to source this will be completely different. The way you're going to do the demand generation and the demand planning for those will be completely different. And hence our promotion strategy also changed. That we are going to invest heavily on the strategic portfolio than standard promotion cutting across all the products which we have in our basket. Probably some of those will have a carryover effect of the brand in the market, and you don't require to push those from the company side. We started segmenting our customers. You will find that a lot of these customers, which are e-commerce, new age customers, do not have too much of inventory. They require an agile supply from all the manufacturers. Their OTIF levels, their inventory levels, their ask on the new product availability is far more higher than your general trade customers. Your modern trade channel customers are spread across all over India. They may have multiple branches and they would expect a similar kind of a service levels. Rural customer will have a completely different expectation. They don't want a high ticket size. They want a small ticket size, few brands available, good packaging requirement so that jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai in India. That's what the rural is all about. And the institutions, which is government institutions, these are corporate hospitals, which will look for a timely supplies at the right price, at the right availability. Now, we never did this part. So we started saying now we need to look at the expectation of all these customers and start thinking about what they're asking for us from each of these key levers and how we are going to redesign our supplies. So our distribution footprint will change, our serviceability will change, our prioritization logic will change in the back end. We've been doing the standard forecasting time series for all the while, and then we attempted for a digital twin to build in multiple scenario buildings on the demand sensing. And we also started collecting a lot of data from our customers to understand how their secondary started moving, and can we sense the demand early, then relying on what our sales or a marketing team is talking about. Just to give you an example, our COVID first wave, second wave, and third wave are completely different. The first wave, you have a lot of uncertainty around what will work. In the second, you know what will work. In the third, you don't know whether the first and second will work, and the third was completely muted one. Now, the disease profile, since it has changed, the impact on the human has changed, your treatment has changed completely. In the third wave, our time to market for scale up and scale down was just 2 weeks. In comparison to the first wave, where it took us 3 to 4 months, in the second wave, where it took us 2 to 3 months, in third wave, we were able to just cut down the entire demand from demand generation to final serviceability within 2 weeks' time, because of demand sensing, what is happening at the chemist level, what is happening at the district level or city level, where the numbers are coming in, what kind of disease is spreading across, what molecules will you use it. Why did this enable us is because now we started looking at a shorter forecasting horizon. We said, can I look at my forecasting window for the next 2 weeks' time rather than looking at long? Mid and long are good for the organization, but when you are into a situation, then you should have a capability to do a forecast for a shorter horizon, and then accordingly gear up your backend. All the while, our focus has been on the forecast accuracy, which is a standard metric across all the companies, across sectors. But then we have matured ourselves to see, should we be also talking about bias and fidelity, because both of them have a very higher impact on your inventory levels and serviceability. Though forecast accuracy can be improved, but inherently, if you do not know what is going wrong, you might land up into a bigger trouble. And that's where we started focusing more on the fidelity and bias along with the accuracy part of it. So since we talked about the strategic product portfolio, we started assessing that where should I be sourcing, and whether these suppliers today or the partners that I have in my network are strategic to us. And for the strategic portfolio, whether that strategic partners resonates the similar kind of engagement with the company. And that's where this entire relationship management program was kicked off. We started talking this entire strategic portfolio with a strategic partner more seriously. We have a business continuity plan, which is now being reviewed on a quarterly basis. We look at all the risks which can impact the business from a cost and from the supply perspective, and started sharing the joint agenda between the strategic partners and us. Some of the cases where we believe that we do not have one, we have now started embarking on a journey to develop one. A lot of in-housing work we started doing, we realized that today our dependency on external world is much bigger, larger, which also prevent us to respond to any urgency or emergency. And that is because of you do not have the capability as a country or a manufacturer or an ecosystem. And that's where a huge effort today for most of the companies, including Dr. Reddy's, is around, can I develop this internal capability to backward integrate a lot of steps that what you're today sourcing it. And if in case it is a part of your strategic portfolio, then it is a must to have it, so that you can just mitigate the entire risk and have a far better control over your supply chain end to end. And of course, in today's scenario, one of the most learned lesson by most of the companies, can you build a strategic inventory? Because that strategic inventory helps you to respond to the customer needs. And when you do not have any room to get continuous supplies because of a disruption in the freight, or disruption in the manufacturing unit, or a disruption because of any lockdowns which is happening in the respective countries. We started looking at our entire manufacturing model from the current to agile, which essentially means today, if you speak to any production guy, you'll say, I want a larger campaigns, I want a long runs. It improves my efficiency. It reduces my labor cost. It reduces my quality analysis cost. We said, fine, we would be able to achieve the same thing, but what is preventing you to get to the same efficiency? And we realized that a lot is embedded into the way we do our changeovers, the way we have a different set of people doing certain activities in a particular period of time. A typical bottleneck that you will find in any of the industries is ABC shift, and the secondly ABC changeovers. The C type changeover is a complete product to product. B is about within the product, and A is nothing but in the similar shift, 3 hours or 4 hours to have a better cleaning. And we realize that in a month, you waste around 25% of your capacity in just doing the changeovers. So can you realize that if you do a quick changeover, what benefits it can add to your agile manufacturing? A, you would be able to take those appropriate runs which market requires. B, you would be able to reduce the cost significantly. So you'll become much more flexible in your operations. And that's where we started looking at our flexible capacity, which is an offshoot of your agile manufacturing. At the same time, we said, if I have a strategic portfolio, if I have a strategic partner, can I also try to do a tech transfer to another manufacturing unit? Wherein we'll see, if required, if some of my manufacturing units are not working, probably I'll go to that manufacturer and ask for the supplies. So today, your same products are being mapped, the strategic portfolio is mapped with a couple of options, so that if required, you will be able to leverage it. Then, of course, you have done a lot of digitization in your backend. Your digitization journey has gone up from doing things by yourself to a situation where now robots does it for you. Just to give you an example, most of your maintenance is today time-based maintenance, which we have migrated to a condition-based maintenance. Now, today the sensors are able to tell you the vibrations, the speed at which the machine runs it, and puts you an alarm that whether you need an intervention. Accordingly, service engineer goes and attend those machines, instead of a checklist on a monthly basis, wherein you just go there and check whether the machine is working fine or not. Your quality release can be done sitting at home instead of being physically there, looking at the documents, going through the batch processing, manufacturing records. So all of these things, we were able to make changes in the production environment. From a delivery perspective, what we looked at is our entire deployment piece from your mother warehouse to regional warehouse was predominantly based on the standard replenish-based model. Now, what we realized during the COVID is your demand is completely fragmented. The moment, so we have also seen the waves behaving differently in different states. Few states got the wave much earlier than the other states, and that's where our dynamic inventory management or buffer management has to kick in. So we realized this part and we started moving around with the help of AI and scenario building. We were able to cater to this dynamic buffer management and then started furnishing our stocks to the distributors and our CFAs. We also looked at that if you're dealing with the fewer stocking points in the country, your ability to serve customers are far better. Your forecast accuracy goes up significantly. Your operating cost comes down, and your ability to turn it around is far higher. And that's why we have done a significant consolidation in our distribution footprint. Just to put a number, around 30%. We have now digitized most of our processes, which caters to the customer, whether it is ordering process or a delivery or tracking. All the data is a real-time based data, which means now you don't need to go physically collect the order, deliver it to your CFA for execution, and then track it manually by calling few transporters to understand. So everything today we are able to do digitally. So this is a big transformation which has happened in the distribution piece. We also, as I said, all your customers require differentiated services. We were wired to provide a similar kind of services to all the customer, and we realized that you don't need to do that. The customer is not asking for either a higher service or lower service. You just have to attune yourself to the right service levels. And so we defined for modern trade, e-com, rural, institution, and all, what should be the right service levels, got the sign off from them. We also started looking at our customers more intrinsically and joining the hands with them, and started doing a lot of joint account planning for the year to understand their aspirations, to understand how we can serve them better, what are things that they require from us, which will make them successful. And then finally, we also started looking at our returns. We realized that this industry is quite fragmented industry. And your customer base is also quite fragmented. You never know that which customer is the right or a wrong one. And you might end up getting the returns unnecessary. So we looked at our entire inventory piece and started now mapping at a secondary level. Started understanding where all inventory for which product is lying for how many days. The moment you started having a visibility on that, you can anticipate whether the returns will come in. If in case you anticipate returns will come in, you start away recalling those stocks much earlier than coming as a non-sellable. Then, because returns can be either a sellable or non-sellable. Whenever the non-sellable return comes in, you just have to destroy it. For sellable one, you can still sell it. You started doing a customer entire base verification, understanding which ones are strategic to you, and start doing a risk assessment on the overall portfolio, from the number of products that we sell, from the payment schedules, from the delivery timelines, from their share to other customers. And that's how we started now focusing more on the holistic customer approach. While we were doing this, we have put in the ones that you see in the greens are the ones where we have put in a lot of focus on digitizations. And one of the biggest project, which is overarching every one of these, is your IBP. The IBP is an integrated business planning platform, which promises you a one plan across the organization. Now, the beauty about this plan is previously and historically, most of the companies, most of the industries struggle with a bullwhip effect, which this platform nullifies. So you have only one plan which sales wants to achieve. The same plan manufacturer will use to manufacture. The same plan your delivery team will use to deliver at the respective. And that's how you will not have an excess inventory in the system. Now, this was something which we realized during the COVID times, because we were all talking about, tell me what you want to sell and not what you need to stock, because strategic inventory is our part. You just need to focus on what you need to sell. And IPP was one of the instrumental program which helped us to do this. Some of these metrics that you will find, which is demand sensing, shorter horizon, sharper metrics, were an offshoot. One thing which we also did, this was little before the COVID, but we were able to fructify the entire benefits during the COVID, was our entire digitization of P2P process. So entire purchase to payment process for any supplier or partner in our system is digitized. So the moment you release the PO in the system, they accept in their system. So we have a program called Vikreta Connect, which got installed in their SAP or ERP system. And whenever they want to send the stocks against the purchase order, they issue a ASN, which gets featured in our system to understand when they're going to start their consignment from their location. So now you are able to track this entire piece through P2P platform. Flexible capacity is something that we started harnessing as an offshoot of agile manufacturing, because then now you're able to see how much of spare capacity that you have it and where all it is available, not just in your internal network, but also available across your external manufacturing footprint. All your maintenance, batch record, quality release are now today digitized, and the team is able to do the same activity sitting at home, need not be present physically in order to release these documents. Today, most of our front-end work is digitized, which is your doctor clinic operations, which is providing an access to the doctors, which medicines Dr. Reddy is going to launch, which medicines are used for what purposes. Along with that, if in case there is a chemist who is servicing to the doctor, we are also providing the visibility to the doctor. At the same time, we are also providing our sales force the entire digital footprint of the stocks which is available across our network, so that he knows if in case today the order is not being serviced, it is because of what? Either there's a credit block, the stock not available, The order value is too short. So all the reasons are available so that he can take an action, so that my customer doesn't need to wait for an order which he has serviced. The secondary stock visibility in pharma has been always a challenge, and that's what we have looked into this piece very minutely, and ensure that all our customers today provide us the entire secondary stock visibility, which help us to understand where all what is lying, which also give us a visibility on whether we need to take it back or we need to liquidate. Now, these are some of the interventions which has helped us from moving our mindset from pure play cost efficiency to a better, sustainable, resilient company which can withstand the storm and still afloat. So that was a predominantly the philosophy of redesigning your entire supply chain. And I believe the journey hasn't stopped yet. These are few critical things that we were able to achieve it. Only one thing which I can talk and then probably open the floor for the question. In the last 2 years, we have never ever said no to any order. Our order fulfillment ratio has been one of the highest, which is 99.5%. Our inventory levels have been in the range of 60 to 70 days, which we believe is still higher, but others are able to manage with much higher levels. Our forecast accuracy within the pandemic times, we were able to achieve at 85%. Our fidelity is far more higher. Our bias is less than 5%. Today, our strategic portfolio, most of the suppliers and vendors are very happy with the volumes, the price that we do. We do hedging, and there are certain parts which you can't hedge it, which is left to the, I would say, the fate of God, because these are something which you can't do anything about it, but you do track it and ensure that the moment you have a commodity cool-off effect, it is also started reflecting in your prices. But by and large, we feel we have done a decent job in terms of catering the needs of the patient, particularly in the times of pandemic, when they require us the most as an industry and as a company. That's all pretty much from my side. I'll now leave Nagendraji to.
Thank you so much, Anand. That's a phenomenal one, and quite a journey it must have been actually. Especially, I think the icing on the cake is what you just said. You know, those two the metrics in terms of order fulfillment ratio and also the inventory levels. I think that's a phenomenal one, especially the kind of challenges we had. Now we have quite a few questions. Let me, with your permission, I want to read out to you. The first one is from Mr. Deepak Tyagi, and his question is: how much and how do Dr. Reddy's able to control the logistic cost when ocean freight is increasing?
So there are two parts of it. In the current context, we have gone ahead and did a lot of contracting with the shipping lines. Our contract was little longer, and that's where when you start seeing an increase from December onwards, we have not seen the impact. Probably we'll start seeing the impact from Q1 onwards. And I believe if in case we are back to normalcy, then hopefully we have avoided. But in the first wave and the second wave, we have seen a significant impact. Our contracts are a little longer, which helps us to prevent. So that's where we were able to control this entire logistics cost. In some of the cases, when we found the port congestion in US has gone up significantly in other countries, we have taken certain routes to ensure availability, which is through chartered planes. So those are a few exceptional scenarios, and we have to take it as that goes without saying that we have also duty to serve mankind, and that comes before the cost. And that's where we were able to cater the service the patients, then fingering it out on the cost. But predominantly, we were able to overcome the logistics cost escalation in Q3 of this year by better contracting.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you, Deepak. And this is a question from Ashish Moitra, and his question is, need to know how you manage the balance of efficient SCM and responsive SCM after pandemic. And have you introduced a blockchain in your organization? Thank you, Ashish.
Yeah, so I did talk about the metrics which we were able to influence with the help of this entire transformational journey that we have gone through. So previously, our forecast accuracy was in the range of 75 to 80%, which we moved it to 85% within the pandemic times, which means we were much more agile. We were understand our horizon was 1 week, 2 weeks time, and within those times we were able to forecast it better. Our OTIF levels at the customer level has gone up. Rural is being the biggest challenge for us, but we were able to cater that demand by opening up a right distribution centers. One of the biggest challenges that we initially faced were the high inventory levels and the obsolescence of the COVID product portfolio, which we were also able to realize better in the Q2 time. So by and large, our digitization journey has moved us from the current levels of 80-85%, 75 to 80% to 85-90%. So that, I believe, is a significant transformation using our digital platform. Blockchains, so far we have not used it, and I firmly believe that today what we are doing, we should be doing better. We should perfect on the current resources than embarking on a new journey. Our reason is the capability of the organization is best known by the organization, and I believe we would get there, but right now we just need to exhaust our available capacities and capabilities, and that's where we have taken that route.
Thank you. And then this is the question from Deepu Baisha, and her question is, sir, what is agile manufacturing? And the second question from her is, what is hybrid model? Thank you, Deepu.
Yeah, so agile manufacturing is all about were you able to reduce your cycle time for a product as low as a couple of hours or a couple of minutes. So when we say agile manufacturing, you are introducing a concept of quick changeovers, your shorter run. So for an example, if your batch size typically is a 1 lakh and demand is just, let's say, 50,000. Now, in order to take a batch, you need to have a changeovers before and after. If your changeover time is much smaller, you'll be able to take just 1 batch instead of asking for a couple of batches, because that will kill your time. You'll kill your time of manufacturing, right? And typically in any setup that you will find, 16 to 17 hours is required for a changeover, which is a type C changeover. Now, essentially, you are just, if you have too many products on that line, your manufacturing goes for a toss. Now, what is an outcome of it? The outcome is either you will not be able to service all the product which is due for the month, or you will have excess inventory of certain products which is not required. So in either of the ways, you're not very productive organization from a customer standpoint and working capital standpoint. And that's the concept that we introduced, which enables you to be much faster and responsive to the market condition. Hybrid model today is well talked about in the parlance of manufacturing and supply chain, where people can work physically and remotely to do the same work with the help of digitization. That's the hybrid model that we're talking about.
Thank you. And this is a question from Seshachalam Pujari, and he has got the 3 questions. One is the first one is there NPS measurement followed by Dr. Reddy's lab? That's the first question, Anand. The second question that he has is, how do you manage compliance end-to-end, import or indigenization? And the third one is, did you face leakage at the last mile endpoint delivery, changing the box medicine, and what was the percentage of the same? Thank you, Seshachalam. 3 important questions.
So let me go one by one. The first question was Net Promoter Score, NPS, right?
Yes, yes.
As an organization, we measure NPS predominantly for our brands, just to understand how many customers are very happy about it. So far, we have not looked into from the middlemen, which is distributors, which is the institution perspective. But Net Promoter Score, we have started introducing to corporate hospitals and to the main doctors that we service today. But from all customers' perspective, we have not embarked on that journey because that's very tedious and they do not have time. Just to give you the landscape of our customer, a customer today deals with 50 to 100 companies, and they seldom get a time to give an order to us. So that's the complexity that we deal with. But we are very cognizant about NPS for a few strategic customers, and that's where this entire joint account planning that I did talk about. So NPS is definitely part of that. The second question was?
The second one was how do you manage the complaints end-to-end, import or indigenization?
So today, so you just have to bucket it up that what part of your portfolio today. So first you look at the overall level at a company, that how much percentage of sale is dependent on importation and how much of the sale you can source it from your domestic sources. Within that, then you cut it, what part of your strategic portfolio is relying with the imports. And then you cut it, whether those import sources are strategic vendors or strategic suppliers to you. If not, then that becomes your first set to work upon with the development effort with the similar supplier, or you find an alternate and look for indigenization of those capability in the country. So that's how we look at it. The third piece was around the last mile leakages, and I believe the last mile leakages is one of the most talked about issue in India from a pharma perspective from two lenses. One is the spurious drugs, and the second piece is the cold chain integrity, and I believe you would be referring to one of those. So from a last mile spurious drugs perspective today, because of the lack of awareness among the consumer group, it is very difficult to figure it out whether my medicine is genuine or not. We try doing a lot of intervention at our level, but those interventions are best known to us. For an example, if I tell you that for every product that you purchase, you have a 16-digit code, you probably would see that 16-digit code, but you would not try to type in your mobile and say, okay, whether I have purchased the right product, because that's not your prerogative and nobody would expect you. We don't do that. I don't do it. So it becomes very difficult for a consumer in India to figure it out. And that's an ongoing journey. We are working together with the government to figure it out the best way through which we can solve this entire spurious problem. The second piece is regarding the cold chain integrity for the last mile delivery. We have been partially successful because we have limited our operations to a fewer set of customers through which we deliver these cold chain products. Ensures that they also deliver in a similar box that we have designed it to withstand the different temperature conditions to the last customer. So far, our journey has been partially successful, and I believe this is also one area which can be taken care by increasing the level of awareness among the people who are servicing those medicines to the patient. Because when you start relating that this is going to be the effect of the medicine and this is going to save the life, and these are all life-saving medicines. So once you know that for this purpose you're going to deliver, the conscience will come in and people would not take any shortcuts. So these are the two things that I can draw out. Anything specific, you can always post a question.
Thank you. And this is a question from Mr. Abhay Suthar, and his question is, what are the important points we have to remember while working in SCM industry, and good coordination with the vendors? Thank you, Abhay.
I always believe that supply chain is a very, very integral part of the business, and it's the most strategic part of the business. A supply chain professional has to behave like an entrepreneur, because you are defining the fate of the organization from a cost efficiency. At the same time, you're responsible to protect your top line. So you need to have a well-rounded perspective when you deal with your area in your company. Whether it is to do with the procurement piece of it, so you must understand these procured products goes into manufacturing, which products, these are sold at what prices, what customers look for these prices, what customer is looking forward as an expectation from this product. And backwardly, you would understand that whether the deliveries, whether the cost which you are providing makes sense from the overall perspective of a customer and a business. From dealing with the vendors, we have changed the terminology and we start using partners, because without the help of your partners, you'll not be able to grow. So they are the partners to your success. If you make them successful, you're also successful. So our philosophy has been completely different, and we manage our partners with the clear expectations on cost, delivery, sustainability, efficiency, and we say these are the important parameters on which we will be measuring the success, and it's going to be a joint success, and that's how we deal with our partners.
Thank you, Anand. This is a question from Mr. Shiv Mithil, and his question is, with reference to AI-based forecasting, have you used third-party vendor or have you built your own in-house AI tech from scratch? Thank you, Shiv.
So we've been using our SAP APO, and along with that, we have onboarded our journey on Kinaxis. So we are looking at Kinaxis helping us to do all these modeling. So far, our journey has not been with a third party. It is a combination of SAP and Kinaxis.
And next question is, actually, she has got two questions. The questions are from Veena Gayatri. The first question is, do you offer projects or internships to students in supply chain? How can a student apply for the same? That's the first question that she has. And the second one is, does lean manufacturing apply to your industry? Thank you, Veena.
So we do have internship programs. Our HR has got institutes onboarded into the network, and they visit those institutions during your internship program. They select the candidates, and based on the selection and based on your performance, they're also being given the pre-offer. That's a very standard program, which is also applicable for most of the companies in India. Lean manufacturing has more relevance for Dr. Reddy's or for pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceutical as an industry has been left out from all these initiatives because of high margins. Over a period of time, we realized that our margins have squeezed because of many reasons, because of regulatory landscape change in US, many competition coming in, the expectation of different governments changing, the supply is going up significantly, capability is going up. And that's where, in order to be more competitive, lean as a concept is important for us to survive. And today, lean in manufacturing is becoming one of the key differentiated strategy for an organization to be more productive. So it is very, very relevant for us. And we use VSM very extensively to understand non-value added and value added work, and team work on how can we reduce NVA end to end and try to meet the takt time, which is the customer expectation on the deliveries. So that's a very well-known concept in today's parlance at Dr. Reddy's.
This is a long question from Mr. Bappa Das Anand, and it's very long, but let me just read out for you. When it comes to supply chain operations, digital transformation and IoT can be a mixed blessing. Still, there are several technologies with potential to enhance the way we approach the digital supply chain, including artificial intelligence, drones and robots, electric vehicles, and on-demand delivery. But even though these systems or services are intended to make e-commerce processes more efficient and cost efficient in the long run, the challenges lie in implementing them across the company's existing supply chain. Please share your experience on the challenges you faced on this digital transition. Thank you, Bappa Das.
I completely echo the thoughts and the concern that you have while using many technology platforms, and these are buzzing words. Everybody want to talk about it. Let me share you with one experience. When we implemented one of the AI third-party platform just for the trial, what we realized is our entire demand planners bandwidth got super compromised just to figure it out what went wrong in the AI. So AI has given us an output, said that there is something wrong with the forecasting. Now, AI didn't tell us what is wrong. You have to figure it out. Now, we have to spend a week's time just to figure it out what went wrong. So these things are great things, but in isolation, it doesn't make sense. And as you rightly said, a company needs to first understand the real digital need for their respective processes. Once you understand what's your real need and whether this will serve the need for an organization which is dovetailed with your business strategy. If it is not linked with your business strategy, please do not embark, because then probably you would be doing something which organization at large is not interested. So you have to ask yourself why it is necessary to digitize those processes, those operations. If it makes sense for an organization which is alluding to the fact that business also wants it, then you please go ahead. Tools, digital tools, technologies are just enablers for you to be there to be more productive. Use a technology which is more conducive to your environment. Use a technology and take a smaller steps in the technology space, because change management is one of the biggest bottleneck in Indian context. And let me also tell you, there was a survey which was happened some time back. The entire world did talk about transforming their respective organization digitally in the next 1 or 2 years' time. And when someone asked them, what is the biggest bottleneck that you have while envisaging this entire dream coming true? They said capability. They do not have digital workforce in their system more than 5%. So their digital capability is super weak. Now with that, if you want to embark on a larger transformational digital journey, it becomes very difficult. You're just then making a big statements and big meetings and probably no action on ground. So your concern is absolutely valid. And I would encourage that please take those journeys while taking into consideration what business wants and what technology will help you for your operation, which takes care of the complexity of your current ERP systems.
Thank you. This is a question from Souvik Roy Chaudhary, and his question is, what challenges Dr. Reddy's Lab supply chain or logistic team faced during early weeks of COVID-19? Also, for North American business, most of the outbound logistics happened from Hyderabad, India. Since all the commercial flights were at halt, so how could you manage the inventory level in North America? Thank you, Souvik.
Okay, so there are two parts to it. One is the North America, and the second part is on the logistics. How did I manage? Okay, was in the initial COVID time. So and I think this goes with the industry. What we found was is March 20, and I believe in the April 20, what we understand is most of the transporters, in fact, whomsoever we were dealing with, they started reaching out to us. And they're reaching out to us, talking about the concerns that they have it. So many of them had concerns on the manpower. Many of the concerns they have it that their transshipment was stuck at different parts of the country, and they do not have the visibility where the truck is standing. Whether the material has been offloaded to their transporter hub, or whether it is lying outside the transporter hub, they have no clue about it. And we completely appreciated the point. The first thing that we did was made them assurance that we are not going to take any legal actions against them, because this is something which is beyond anyone's intervention. The second thing that we started saying is, we will help you to figure it out, but you just have to tell us broadly which part of the country, how many trucks, how much of inventory is lying where. Broadly, you tell us. We went state by state, we went cities by cities, because we have CFA operations as well. And mind you, those days we used to get e-passes issued by the government. So we leverage those e-passes. Some of our workforce, which is spread across India, we use those e-passes to locate some of these trucks. And then we said, here is the now geofencing that we have done it for you. Now please help to mobilize these trucks, because drivers have gone back to their hometowns. And then they have pull in, because they have seen we have helped them significantly, they have pulled in their workforce and especially allocated for us in those regions to mobilize those trucks. In less than 15 days time, we were able to mobilize our entire inventory, which was stuck across India, from transporter hub, from our plant operations, and from the trucks where the driver has left and gone back to their villages. Coming to the second point, which is around North America. Typically, any generic industry would have 2 to 3 months of stock, which is available at the front end. So we do have a warehouse in North America where we have 2 to 3 months of stock available at any point in time. The second piece was we looked at the airlines, which was more progressive that time. And we find a couple of them. One was Emirates, second was Turkish. Now, they were operating predominantly from Mumbai, and they had few flights coming into Hyderabad. So we moved most of our consignments from Hyderabad. We chose our airlines very judiciously. For some of the consignments, we have done a chartered flights flying between Hyderabad and US locations. So that's how we were able to take care of the flight operations and service levels at North America side.
Thank you. I think this is a question from Sudeep Sen Sharma, and his question is: experience on in supplier strategy towards long-term contracts for RMs, if any, after COVID-19 breakout. Is there any trend in reducing long-term contracts to medium-term or short-term to match market volatility or able to manage the volatility? How? Thank you, Sudeep.
So previously we do have a long-term contracts and we continue to have the same. The contracts helps you. So first thing we need to understand, why do we do contracts? We just want to secure our supplies. We want to just secure our price escalations. And the contracts must be done with those partners where you believe contracts is workable. Else it becomes just a piece of paper. During COVID times, most of the companies have used and invoked force majeure clauses in the contract, stating all those things stands null and void, which is completely appreciated because we have also done the similar thing with our customers. But once the situation became normalized, those contracts was completely full in force, and we were able to leverage those contracts to bring down our cost and resume our supplies. We still continue to hold long-term contracts. The long-term contracts in current scenario is a boon. The reason being, you never know whether there's going to be fourth or a fifth or a sixth wave coming in and hitting in what way. Your contract terms, the way you make your contracts is also very important. Some of the contracts that you do, if it is indexed to a commodity, it helps you. So even if in case the situation becomes benign externally, if it is indexed to a commodity, it still gives you the right pricing and doesn't hold you to the cost that you have initially agreed upon. And I sincerely believe your contracts, when you're looking at, has to be a long-term in nature, unless and until you are into an industry where your volumes commitments are varying significantly. If you are into that industry, then of course you need to go with quarterly and half yearly. In our industry, since our volumes are more stagnant and probably growing, that's why we go for long-term contracts.
And this is a question from Mr. Pranjal Gupta Anand. And his question is, hello, sir, thanks for sharing great efforts. Forecasting accuracy is one important factor in efficient SCM. What improvements in technological intervention help you to achieve the benchmark forecasting accuracy? Also, how has it helped to manage your inventory turnover ratio? Thank you, Pranjal.
So our forecast accuracy forecast accuracy has got two connotations to it. One is the harder connotation, and the second is the softer one. Often you will find the harder you can crack it, the softer you won't be able to. And the software is all about whether the business has bought in this idea of forecast accuracy, because business is all about sales. What we converted is a conversation from a forecast to a business delivery. So we started talking about, let's talk about how much you want to achieve the target for the month, and along with the business head. Now, when you look at your business targets, it is a combination of 3-4 aspects: volume, price, returns, credit notes, and any discount at large that you give it. We started pulling all these things together and using forecast to just future project these numbers and say, you're going to miss it, or you are anticipating a huge bumper sale in the coming months. And this, mind you, will become a commitment from your side to the business. The moment they started looking at these numbers, they become super cautious about the volume forecast that they start sharing with us. So over a period of time, we find a decent buying coming from the business and saying, I will not give you the wrong forecast, because if I do, you catch me while putting all these numbers together and say you're going to deliver so many crores. And that is a huge sensitivity. The second piece that we did at the same time from a hardware aspect, we became much more richer from the kind of models that we start using. We have today around 10 to 12 auto time series forecasting models, which is fed into the system, basis on the historical trend and the molecule behavior, the brand behavior. The model picks up the relevant one and forecast. The whole idea is about minimize, make. And that's what we do it. We review this diligently on a quarterly basis and see if in case we need to change anything. That's how we've been able to manage the forecast accuracy. Inventory turns, if you look at, you're looking at around 60 days. So we are decent. So 6 turns in a year is what we are having today.
Now, this is a question from Mr. Sauvik Roy Chaudhary, and his question is, why did you choose SAP S4HANA and why not Microsoft Dynamics 365, which seems to be offering more flexibility on lean manufacturing or forecasting? Thank you, Sauvik.
So SAP is our base ERP system. And when they came up with this S4HANA upgradation, we went around the same. Please understand, when you become a $3 billion company, changing your base ERP system is like changing the DNA of the organization. And it becomes a 2, 3 year, 4 year roadmap for you to get into. S4HANA came in just before the COVID, and we all felt the offering which which SAP was offering was far better. Though it has got limitations, but then we said we will top it up with the right planning software, and that's where we went ahead with Kinaxis. Kinaxis globally has one of the best models which will pull it together, does a lot of scenario building without impacting your SAP. So that's the model that we have chosen. I keep talking about organization must understand what are their true strengths in their digital capability. They must understand their culture well and then adopt the right technology. Maybe Microsoft is a superior platform than SAP, but based on the current context that we have, we chose S4HANA.
This is the question from Mr. Nikhil Jain. His question is, sir, being a mechanical engineer with more than 22 years of service in defense, that is in Indian Air Force, what is the scope of defense aspirants to have career in supply chain management? Thank you, Nikhil. You're asking the right person.
And I'm a personal believer of if you have the right behavior, you have a right attitude, and you have a right knowledge, you are fungible. You can go anywhere, wherever you wish to. And you just have to put all things together. I was also a mechanical engineer, and I did sales in my beginning. I went into consulting, and then I landed into a strategy job, post which then I came to supply chain. And I don't know whether I'll take a business role next time. What you must know about yourself is, are you nimble enough from your learning capabilities? If you have it in you, Nobody can stop you. It's just that you require a break. And for that break, you just need to prep yourself. You need to prep yourself, getting the right certifications, take few projects in your current assignments, ensure that you understand the connotations of that particular functions well, and express, and then start taking baby steps towards your change in the function line. But there is nothing which stops you to going from one career to another. In fact, people now encouraging more diversity into the function for a simple reason, because once you come from a different background, you bring different insights, you bring different perspective. And today's world is all about perspective and insights.
This is the question from Mr. Aditya Malewar, and his question is, which methodology or logic is practiced for third-party vendor order allocation to balance supply and demand? Thank you, Aditya.
So I believe you're talking about if you have for a one material multiple suppliers. If you're talking about that, then you have in SAP fair share or a 30-70. You can always assign basis on the costing that you have received from two, which are differentiated. If in case it is not, then there got to be some parameter basis on which you have two sources qualified in your system. Try to make a differentiation out of it, either in terms of cost or delivery or innovation or efficiencies or responsiveness, something or other which helps you to figure it out why you have chosen to have two vendors in your system. And then put a weightage just to have a supply continuity and ensure that you have got two sources for a product.
Now, this is the question from Sony Singh, and her question is simple: how we can handle bullwhip effect? Thank you, Sonu.
Bullwhip effect can only be handled once the entire organization start talking about one plan, one team. If you all talk about one plan, one team, there is no bullwhip. Then you are only building up some strategic inventory, which is a conscious call for the organization. So it is important for all the leaders of your company to start talking about that this is my plan and this is your plan and this is your external partner's plan. And unless and until you achieve that, it becomes very difficult to measure. There are ways to measure. The efficacy of those are limited. And that's what I'm pressing hard on, maintaining one plan, one team in the organization. You can measure through a better forecasting. You can measure through a better inventory levels, dynamic buffer management systems and all. But I would strongly recommend you to have conversation on having one team, one plan.
So with your permission, Anand, we'll take last two questions, although we have so many questions on the board. I think one of the second last question is from Poonam Jakar, and her question is, sir, what is the skill set required? By the way, this is outside the SCM, but I think it's to do with your previous avatar, Anand. So what is the skill set required for getting place in consulting domain? Thank you, Poonam.
The most admired skill set in today's context is your inquisitiveness. The more inquisitive you are, which means you have fantastic capability to understand the unorganized world. And inquisitiveness brings a lot of fundamental questions getting answered. I've seen it personally. And this is something which I have learned from my partners during my 7 years of consulting career. The more inquisitive you become, consulting organization just helps you to become more organized by providing you an access of analytical tools, giving you an access of softer behaviors. But if in case you are looking for that one thing, it is about your inquisitiveness. The second piece that you can always look at becoming much more sharper is getting hands around the analytical skills. So you need to know how to crunch the data. You should be very, very good at data crunching and use a lot of Six Sigma tools to begin with. There are 7 QC tools which are available. Those are very fundamental, which is Pareto, histogram, all of these things that you will get to know. These things help you to become much more sharper from an analytical perspective. Please understand, consultant brings in inquisitiveness to the client environment to make them more organized for the data that they share. And you can bring in by being more inquisitive, at the same time having access to various tools, analytical tools to analyze and give them a solution. That's the role of the consultant. I believe this should help you.
Thank you. And the last question for today evening session is from Mr. Prashant Sharma. And his question is, since there is a change in law regarding allowability of expenses related to samples to be provided to the doctor, as well confirmed by Supreme Court, are pharma companies continuing that practice, since this will hit the profit or loss account of every company? Thank you, Prashant.
So first of all, the samples are being always provided to doctors for them to provide and test whether the efficacy that we see have been experienced. Second, when we provide our brands to the doctor, is them to tell us whether the drug which they have given to the patient is working well or not. If it is working well, then they are getting an endorsement that this product is far better, the patients are getting treated better, and they will be able to further prescribe the same drug for the upcoming patients. If in case people are misutilizing these samples for other purpose, it is best known to them. But from our perspective, samples are important aspect for doctors to understand whether if they prescribe this drug, what is going to be the feedback. And that's how we are on this journey. Expense, I'm not too sure about the question, but this is the company's expense. This is not doctor's expense. We're not giving it to anyone. This is a company which is bearing the cost of producing and providing these samples, which is written clearly not for sale to the doctors.
Thank you so much, Anand. I think it's been great having you and having your insights for this great topic. I think for me, the way I looked at this one is that it's almost like a mini course in supply chain management, and because it has got, I think, all the ingredients of a typical supply chain management program are quite neatly embedded into this small lecture, but very short lecture, but very substantial, I would say. I'm sure those of people from our participants or learners who have been or who are into this one, they would have a lot of levers to pick it up from, and they're going to take it forward. Once again, thank you so much, Anand, from all of us at TimesPro Professional Learning and TSW, and we wish you and your wonderful team a great success in setting very high standards of supply chain management area, and also I think making sure that we also get into that field of that I think getting the science of the digitalization very right, because I think while rightly you said there is so much this is all they have become while the buzzwords, but I think what is also equally important is the science behind why we are using it, kind of thing. And I'm sure that's going to happen under your tutelage. And once again, from all of us, thank you so much, and look forward to hosting you once again at your release convenience. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.